Power isn't about having control. It's about thinking you have it. I wrote these words in my diary the night before I orchestrated the gas leak that could have killed 12 people. My name is Margaret Wilson, and this is my confession. The crystal wine glass trembles in my hand as I watch from my Victorian mansion's window. Across the street, the daily grind buzzes with life. My nemesis, Alana Chan, laughing with customers, her dark hair catching the morning light. But it's not her success that makes my blood boil. It's Dr. Ethan Parker's BMW parked in the back alley again. I used to be Millbrook's queen bee, the widow everyone admired, the woman who could make or break reputations with a single nod. Now, I'm the architect of my own destruction, and it's time you heard the truth about how far a respectable woman will go when she loses control. It started 6 months ago, at the annual Millbrook Charity Gala. I had spent 20 years building my reputation as the perfect widow, channeling my grief into community service. Ethan Parker was supposed to be my reward, the town's most eligible bachelor, a brilliant doctor with a jawline that belonged in a medical drama. That night, wearing my late husband's favorite pearls, I watched Ethan slip out to the garden. I followed, rehearsing the speech I'd practiced for weeks. But through the French doors I saw them. Ethan and Alana, their silhouettes merging in the moonlight. My perfectly manicured nails drew blood from my palms. The next morning I made my first move. A casual visit to the health department, where my generous donations had bought me influence. "I'm just concerned," I said, my voice dripping with fake worry. "That new cafe owner. Her divorce was so messy. Is she stable enough to run a food establishment?" My campaign against Alana became an obsession. Each morning, I'd wake up and plan new ways to destroy her. I was methodical, patient, a spider weaving a web of destruction. First came the whispers. "Did you hear about her past?" I'd murmur to the church ladies. 3 failed businesses before this. And that divorce, well, I heard things. In a small town, rumors are currency, and I was the Federal Reserve. When rumors weren't enough, I escalated. Anonymous complaints to the health department. Mysterious cancellations of her supply deliveries. Computer glitches at the bank that delayed her payments. Each attack carefully orchestrated to appear random, each designed to push her closer to the edge. But Alana proved resilient. Every blow I dealt, she absorbed and came back stronger. Ethan stood by her, their bond growing stronger with each challenge. I watched them through my window, their love mocking my carefully constructed plans. The turning point came when I hired someone to tamper with her cafe's plumbing. It was supposed to be simple, just enough damage to force temporary closure. But things went wrong. The gas leak could have killed everyone inside. As I watched the evacuation from across the street, something dark and thrilling unfurled in my chest. I had finally found my power. My first real attempt to separate Alana and Ethan was more subtle than the later ones. I organized a charity dinner at the hospital, ensuring Ethan would be my designated partner. I wore my best black Chanel dress, the same one my late husband adored, and perfectly played the role of the elegant widow who found strength in philanthropy. "You remind me so much of him," I whispered to Ethan during our dance, carefully rehearsed, tears glistening in my eyes. "James always said the hospital needed doctors who truly cared." I felt his hesitation, that moment of vulnerability I could exploit. But Alana showed up, of course she did. I had manipulated her inclusion on the guest list. She wore a simple dress, clearly out of place among Millbrook's socialites. The look Ethan gave her made me want to scream. That's when I started escalating my tactics. I hired an actress to pose as one of Ethan's former patients, instructing her to make a scene at the cafe during peak hours. "How could you?" she cried, fake tears streaming down her face. After everything that happened between us during my treatment, I watched Alana's face pale, the seed of doubt planted. But it wasn't enough. They talked, they trusted each other. My anger grew. I started frequenting the cafe daily, always choosing times when I knew Ethan would be there. I observed their interactions, cataloging every touch, every smile. I began copying Alana's gestures, her way of speaking, even her perfume. It was a meticulous performance. "You seem tense, Alana," I would say, leaning over the counter. Must be difficult running a business alone after such a complicated divorce. Each word was a small needle precisely positioned. I intensified my presence in Ethan's life. I showed up at his office with generous donations for the pediatric ward. I organized events where he was the guest of honor. I created situations where I needed his medical advice, always late at night, always when I knew Alana would be waiting for him. The community began to notice. They would make such a beautiful couple, I heard people whisper. Margaret is so dedicated to the town, and Dr. Parker needs someone of his caliber. But then came the cruelest blow. I discovered Alana had a teenage daughter from her previous marriage, studying at a boarding school. Using my connections, I spread rumors about the cafe's financial instability until they reached the school's ears. They began questioning Alana's ability to keep up with tuition payments. I saw the terror in her eyes when she received the call from the school. The way her hands trembled while serving coffee. How she started working overtime, exhausted trying to keep her dream alive and her daughter in school. Ethan of course offered financial help. That's when I executed my next move. Anonymously, I sent manipulated photos to the hospital board, suggesting Ethan was accepting sexual favors in exchange for financial support. An ethics investigation was opened. The stress began to show its effects. Alana lost weight, her hands constantly shaking. Ethan looked aged, worried. I watched it all from my window, sipping champagne, savoring every moment of their suffering. But they still refused to give up. So I planned something truly diabolical. Using my contacts, I arranged for Ethan's ex-wife to come to town. Beautiful, sophisticated, with stories about why their marriage really ended, stories I helped fabricate. The chaos that followed was delicious. Doubts, fights, tears. I watched it all like a director observing her masterpiece unfold. Every scream, every slammed door, every hurt look was music to my ears. But it still wasn't enough. It was never enough. With each obstacle they overcame, my need to destroy them grew. That's when I realized I needed to deliver a final blow. Something not even their love could overcome. The gas leak plan began taking shape in my mind. It wouldn't just be about closing the cafe. It would be about completely breaking Alana's spirit, making her feel the same despair I felt every time I saw them together. The day everything unraveled started like any other. I was sipping my morning tea, watching the daily grind through my lace curtains, when I saw Ethan rushing in not for coffee but with purpose. In his hand was a manila envelope that would destroy my carefully constructed world. I hadn't been careful enough. The teenager I'd hired for the social media smear campaign had kept our emails. The contractor from the gas leak incident had gotten sloppy, leaving a paper trail that led straight to my offshore account. Worst of all, my perfect reputation had made me arrogant. I'd stopped covering my tracks, believing my position in Millbrook made me untouchable. That afternoon, while I was hosting the ladies' auxiliary meeting in my living room, Ethan and Alana walked in unannounced. The room fell silent. My teacup clattered against its saucer as Ethan laid out the evidence on my antique coffee table. Bank statements, emails, surveillance footage. My carefully curated audience watched in horror as my mask cracked. "Tell them, Margaret," Ethan said quietly. "Tell them why you tried to destroy an innocent woman's life." I looked at their faces, women who'd been my allies, my puppets, my social army. Now they stared at me with dawning recognition of what I truly was. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Innocent. I laughed, a sound that made several women flinch. She waltzed into our town with her trendy little cafe and her divorce status, thinking she could take what was mine. Everything was perfect before she came. Ethan and I. Everyone knew we were meant to be together. But she ruined everything. The fallout was swift and absolute. Within days, my social empire crumbled. The same whispers I'd once wielded as weapons now turned against me. The bank board quietly asked for my resignation. The church committee suggested I take time to reflect. Even my housekeeper of 15 years quit. But it was the town's reaction to Alana that truly broke me. The daily grind became a symbol of resilience. People lined up around the block, not just for coffee but to show support. I watched from my window as Ethan and Alana embraced outside the cafe, their love stronger for having weathered my storms. The final blow came in the form of a letter from my late husband's sister. James would be ashamed, she wrote. The Margaret he loved was kind, genuine. What happened to that woman? Now, I write this from my self-imposed exile in Vermont, where no one knows the story of Margaret Wilson, the perfect widow who became a perfect villain. The irony doesn't escape me. In trying to maintain control, I lost everything that actually mattered. I've learned that perfection is a poison, slowly killing everything real and genuine in its pursuit. Alana and Ethan's love wasn't perfect. It was messy, complicated, and real. That's why it survived. My carefully constructed perfection shattered at the first real test. Sometimes late at night I think about the gas leak. How close I came to becoming not just a social pariah but a murderer. Those moments keep me humble, keep me honest about who I became. Last week I received a wedding invitation. Ethan and Alana are getting married in the town square, right across from the Daily Grind. I won't attend, of course, but I sent a gift, my late husband's journals. In them he wrote about loving someone for their imperfections, about the beauty of real, messy human love. It's a lesson I learned too late. They say every villain is the hero of their own story. But sometimes the villain is just a woman who forgot how to be human in her pursuit of perfection. I am Margaret Wilson, and this is my cautionary tale. Beware of perfect things and the broken people who try to create them. The Daily Grind still stands, more successful than ever. And I sit here, finally understanding that the greatest act of villainy isn't destroying someone else's happiness. It's convincing yourself that you deserve to do so. Some say love conquers all. In this case, they're right. Not the artificial, perfectly polished love I tried to force, but the real imperfect kind that Alana and Ethan share. The kind that survives gas leaks and whisper campaigns and social sabotage. The kind I never understood until I lost everything trying to destroy it. This is my confession, my warning, my truth. Perfect villains don't exist. We're all just broken people making choices. I chose wrong. And that's the most human thing about me. From my secluded Vermont cottage, I observed the life I left behind through social media. Alana and Ethan seem happy, their photos showcasing their expanding coffee chain and philanthropic work. Ironic how my efforts to destroy them only made them stronger. As for me, I live in relative anonymity. I write novels under a pseudonym, channeling my experience into fictional tales of ambition and redemption. Sometimes I wonder if Millbrook still remembers Margaret Wilson, the perfect widow who nearly destroyed everything. Question for reflection. In a society obsessed with perfection and success, how many of us are just one step away from becoming villains in our own stories? Share your thoughts. Have you ever felt tempted to sabotage someone out of jealousy or ambition? What stopped you? Or if you did, how did you deal with the consequences? And now, for those of you intrigued by tales of social ambition gone awry, we've curated an exclusive playlist just for you. Dive deeper into the murky waters of suburban power plays and societal expectations with our collection of podcasts and short stories.